and welcome to Hooponauts Week 4 recap. So the first thing we're going to look at today is neck hooping, which looks like this. So before you practice neck hooping, make sure you just do a few little rotations of the neck, one way then the other. And I'd also make sure you're using a light hoop, not anything that's too big and heavy. And don't practice for too long at once. We don't want to hurt our neck at all. So short bursts and light hoop. So with neck hooping, just like anywhere else in our body, we want to make sure the hoop is nice and level. So it's not pointing down, it's not pointing up, it's nice and level. My hands are quite close to my neck, and I'm just going to give it a gentle push towards my neck. And if I get that first push right, it will go around my neck without me moving for quite a while. So same with waist hooping. If we get that first motion right, it will go round and round 3 or 4 times without us doing anything. Then the motion, you can either go front and back, just like waist, or you can go side to side as well. And for me, for neck hooping, side to side actually feels a lot easier. So I push it and then I go side to side, side to side. And I kind of think about my weight shifting from one side to the other, and that's how I make sure my movements are quite small. If you can also exaggerate that movement, so you can go side to side, go from one foot to the other, and then try and slow it down a little bit. You can also go forward and back, just see what works for you. The next thing we're going to look at is neck to lasso, and lasso to neck. So first of all, if you need some practice with lasso, you want to feel confident in that first, start with the hoop out in front of you like this, swing it around, up above your head, and then forward, back, and you're in your lasso, and you can kind of get a feel for what that feels like again. So for neck to lasso, it's actually a lot more simple than it looks. All I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for a break in a space in the hoop, so wait till the hoop's out in front, bring my hand up and straight up into the air. And I don't grab onto the hoop or anything. All I do is bring it up to my neck, the hoop touches my hand, and my hand comes straight up. And then I go straight into that forward and back motion. So again, the hoop's going round, wait for a gap, my hand comes in and straight up. Show you that again from the side. Now to bring the hoop back down onto your neck, it's a little bit more difficult. Again, you're going to wait for the gap, but this time up in front. Then you're going to bring your hand down and around. So if I hoop to the right, I'm going to bring my hand down and over to the right side of my neck. If I hoop to the left, I'm going to bring it down and over to the left side of my neck. So it just depends on what you, naturally, what way you hoop. Everyone's got a side. So straight up, wait for a gap, down and around. So it's really common when people first start hooping to be afraid of the hoop, especially when it will bring it down over our face. And the key really is to keep watching the hoop, and it's a lot less likely to hit you in the face when you keep watching it. And often when we're afraid, we kind of look away, kind of move away, and that makes it a lot more difficult. So when you bring it down onto your neck, just keep looking at the hoop, wait for that cap, bring your hand down and around. You can also see that my hand's staying really close to my face. So again, another thing that people often do, they're afraid of the hoop, is kind of try and be as far away as possible, which makes it really, really difficult. So keep our hand really close to our face. It's going to come down to the right for me and go over to the right side. If I hoop to the left, then the same, it's going to come down. I'm using my right hand, so it's still going to come down to the right, and then I'm going to swing it all the way over to the left, like that. Okay, so the next thing we looked at was breaks. Now for breaks, there's a few different things to talk about. So posture is really important. You're going to stand hip width distance apart, up nice and straight. I'm going to bring the hoop to my shoulders. Again, it's nice and level, it's not facing down, it's not facing up. Every time I hit the hoop needs to hit my opposite shoulder. So if I hit it before it hits my shoulder, then it goes awry. So every hit, it's going to hit my opposite shoulder every single time. And that is the break that's bringing the hoop back around. The other thing to think about is where you're actually hitting the hoop. So what happens often is that people, either they hit the hoop down like this, or they hit one side of the hand and the next side of the wrist, and then it's sort of uneven, makes the hoop uneven. So you can either hit with the palm of your hand, with the side of your thumb, some people use, or the side of your wrist. Just whatever you do the same on both sides and just be intentional about it. So I use my wrist here, and I'm going to do that on both sides. So I'm even going to start with the hoop, holding it in my wrist like that, and then I'm going to hit, 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 hit. You can also see I'm moving slightly, so when I use my right hand, I'm turning to the right, and then my left, I'm turning to the left. And it's just a very small movement. I could make the movement bigger as well. I think that makes it more difficult. So just little movements from side to side. And again, it's my wrist, 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 wrist. And my hoop's going all the way to my shoulder and all the way to the other shoulder. I can also try with my palms. Again, I want to make sure that I'm not hitting the hoop down or anything. I'm just going palm, 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 palm. Some tricks to tips while you're learning. You can try leaning over the hoop like this, and that extra gravity can just give you a bit of help because it ensures that the hoop is going to hit your opposite shoulder. So you can learn a bit like this to begin with. You can also learn by trying to hit it with one side and just catching it to begin with. So catch, 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 just where you're getting the feel for that trick. Might be more difficult for some people. Some people find that a good way to really practice and drill their breaks and get them looking nice and smooth. But really, once you've got the basic principle, it's just about practice, getting them looking nice and even. The next thing we looked at was a fold, which looks like this. So for a fold, I'm going to start with the hoop out to the side, like that. I'm going to hinge the hoop forward, so my wrist, my elbow is hinging the hoop in front of me. And I'm making this contact point with my waist, or could be anywhere, depends how big the hoop is. When I make that contact point, my hand with my head is going to go flat, and it's going to create a space for the hoop to turn on my hand. So I hinge the hoop and then put my hand flat, and the hoop spins on the palm of my hand. So let's try and see if I can get a little bit closer to kind of show you a little bit better. Just going to kneel down here. So I hinge the hoop, open my palm, and the hoop spins round. So then all you do is hinge the hoop, let the hoop spin, and then you can pull it down, and you could go into your isolation that we learned on week 2 if you wanted, or you can just go into your hand hooping. Next we did the smear, which looks like this. So for the smear, I'm going to start with my hands down in front of me like this. To begin with, my arms are going to move up towards the right, and the hoop is going to go to the left. Then the hoop is going to come behind me, and my hands are going to come up above my head. Then my hands come back down, but the hoop comes over to my right side. And then my hands come all the way down to start in front of me again. So move your hands to the right and move the hoop left. Then behind you, move your hands up into the air and to the right. Bring your hands back down and then all the way back down, finish in front of you like that. And the hoop stays really close to my body the whole time, so I don't stick it out. At no point do I twist the hoop. I'm just moving it around my body. It's keeping that contact. So on my back, it keeps contact, and on my front. And I can do this slow. I can do it fast. And I can really just have a good play around with it. And then we looked at some variations. So we looked at this one. So when I'm doing the smear, when the hoop is the left side of my body, I just flip the hoop over to the right and then flip it back into my smear. Then when the hoop's over to the right, I can flip it to the left and flip it back, and it comes over like that. The other variation we looked at was just moving the hoop in one direction and then breaking and coming in the other direction. So the trick to making this look like a move It's just really exaggerating it, so moving your body into the hoop and then coming back the other way. So you might want to stand in front of a mirror if you can, if you've got the space, and have a play around with this move and the variations of it. Now we're going to put all the tricks together, so it looks like this. So start with the hoop on my neck, and then I'm going to bring my hand, wait for the gap and bring my hand straight up. Wait for a gap up above my head, bring the hoop down and over to the right. Then I'm just going to let the hoop come down onto my shoulders, so I'm going to catch it straight away and come into my greats. Then I'm going to bring my hands inside the hoop and just catch it over to the right side for me, so I'm right-handed. Bring the hoop up and over, and then hinge it forward and do your hoop fold. Then you bring your arm down, so it's down at 6 o'clock, grab it with your other hand and come into your snare. Then when I'm on the right side, I flip the hoop to the left, back into snare, on the left side, flip it to the right. So let's do that one more time all together. Start on your neck. Bring it up to lasso. Lasso back to neck. Tuck your shoulders in and come into breaks. Tuck your arms in, grab the hoop and come into a hoop fold. Bring the hoop down to 6 o'clock, come into your smear and finally your smear variation.